Give us your thoughts and suggestions. Email thedailyrep@gmail.com. Now back to the Daily Report with Ian Levitt.
And you can always go back and listen to any part of the show today at am950radio.com. Catch our interview with Mark McKinnon of No Labels. We're also going to be talking with, we also did talk, I should say, with Barbara Crosette of The Nation, the UN reporter there. So you can always go back and listen to the show at am950radio.com. Right now, very big news today, and that is that the Local 563, who you've heard a lot about on this radio station, actually was able to meet with Governor Dayton regarding their grievances. And with us, I'm very happy to have Steve Buck. He is the business agent with Local 563. Welcome in, Steve.
Hi, thank you.
Steve, just for people who aren't maybe familiar with what's been going on with Local 563, walk us out from the first day of the strike.
Okay, well, on June 18th, we negotiated with a mediator, and we were unable to convince the company that our members were going to protect their pension at all costs. And so the next day, we ended up on strike. We are entering our 15th week of the strike, and I am happy and proud to say that our membership has honored that picket line, and not a single worker has returned to work, which is, I guess, shows the resolve of our members in they absolutely, this is about their pensions.
Steve, what sort of attacks were they making against the Cretex workers, against the Local 563, as far as pension cuts? Because we're talking about money that workers had already put into this, correct?
Correct. A lot of people don't understand how our pension funds work. We self-fund our pensions. So when we get a yearly increase through our contract negotiations of, say, 50 cents, it's up to the members how they wish to allocate that money. And they will typically put a portion of that to fund their pension. So at Cretex, over the last 35 years that we've represented that group of workers, they have built that pension contribution, nickel and dime at a time, up to $4.07. And when we went into contract negotiations and were told that the company no longer wished to participate in our pension, we told them we thought that was a bad idea and that our members wouldn't certainly agree with that. But if by chance they did, what about the $4.07? And the company said, well, we're just going to keep it.
So essentially money that was already pre-agreed to is money that workers wouldn't be seeing.
Exactly.
Wow. Again, Steve Buck is with us, business agent with Local 563. We're 100 days now into the strike with 40 workers at Cretex Manufacturing in Shakopee. Steve, today you were able to meet with the governor. What happened with all of that?
Well, we met with the governor and also with the transportation, I can't remember his name, Zelli, Mr. Zelli with the Department of Transportation with MnDOT, to express our concerns and see, what type of help they could be in trying to get a resolution here, get the company back to the table. Since we went on strike, the company has refused to, get back to the bargaining table at all. And have ignored our requests to do so. So we were hoping that possibly with the governor's involvement, that he might be able to contact Cretex, give them his thoughts as to, what should be going on, that we should be negotiating, getting back to the table and get these people back to work.
And what sort of response did you feel you got from the governor regarding this? Is this something that he seemed genuinely concerned about?
Oh, absolutely. Governor Dayton has always been there for the working people, and he has seen the attacks on the middle class through the Crystal Sugar Workers strike and the Minnesota Orchestra. So he's very concerned about this whole trend in trying to take more and more from the workers and further enriching the corporate owners.
We're going to have a lot of people probably texting and, not texting, but emailing and calling the show today, asking the question of, if they don't want to continue to fund pensions anymore, isn't that their right? How would you respond to people that say that?
Well, that may be their right, but keep in mind that the people that work at this plant are not high-wage workers.
Right.
part of the reason that they take these jobs is the promise of a pension and the ability to retire and still have a good quality of living. So the company is responsible to continue that. When you go to work for a company and expect to have a 30 or 35-year career, and when you start working at that company, there's a pension that is promised to you, and you're a union plant and you're represented by a union, that you expect that these things are going to continue, especially when there is no financial need for the company to stop them other than just blatant greed.
Sure. I mean, we saw a lot of this with the up in the Red River Valley with the American Crystal Sugar workers being locked out because at the same time the company was getting record profits. So we hear a lot of people trying to say, well, this is just cutting costs. It's cutting unnecessary costs, and it's directly at the expense of the worker, correct?
Absolutely. In the construction industry, we're now starting to rebound from a really serious 4-year recession. During that period of time, Cretex never once talked to us about, struggles or difficulties, or we need to, address our labor cost issues. Now the construction industry is rebounding. We're seeing levels of work that we haven't seen in 5 years, and so now is the time that they want to come in with these draconian cuts to workers' benefits. It makes no sense. The only explanation is greed. They want to line their pockets with the workers' money.
Again, we're speaking with Steve Buck. He's the business agent with Local 563. 100 days on strike now at Cretex Manufacturing in Shakopee. Now, you just alluded to it, but this is something we're seeing on a national level, correct?
Oh, yeah, and that was something that the governor lamented during our meeting, that, this isn't just an issue in Minnesota. The middle class is being attacked all across this country. And, when you tear down the middle class, what's left? Rich and poor. It seems to me that there's a real effort to have a subservient economy here where people are just so beat down that they have no choice but to work for slave wages and very little benefits. I think that corporate America is trying to keep people working till they die. They don't think anybody deserves to retire. They want you to work until you physically are unable to any longer.
And they don't want to help you out after that either, I might add to that.
No, they sure don't.
We're talking with Steve Buck, business agent with Local 563. It's interesting to talk about this, Steve, because a report just came today out of Cambridge University that researchers actually stumbled upon the fact that 1%ers back in ancient Rome only controlled 16% of society's wealth. As far as here in America, very parallel to the story you're telling us, 1% of earners in America control 40% of the country's wealth. So that divide just keeps being deeper and deeper, and it's very encouraging to hear Governor Dayton say to you outright that he's disturbed by this process. And I think the governor has done a good job in many ways, as best as he can, to change that, at least in this state. But what can people do to make their friends and family aware that this is going on, and B, change that attitude?
Well, I think a lot of it just has to do with being aware of what's going on. People need to have these conversations with their friends and family. When you talk about being a union member, people look at you and say, oh, geez, the unions, there was a time when they were necessary, but now we have, laws that control that, and, all of the workplace safety things and the worker rights things, those are all laws now. Well, there was probably a little truth in that 20 years ago that, as everybody knows, as a union worker does better, so does everybody else, because the other non-union employers need to compete.
Yep.
But that's not been the trend lately. Talk to friends and family and ask them how things are going at their job. They're expected to do more for less.
Yep.
People are working incredible amounts of overtime that they're not compensated for just because they're afraid they're going to lose their job. It's really... in my opinion, we're about due for another workers' revolution in this country, where people need to really stand up for their rights in the workplace. Mm-hmm. The fact that the divide in this country between the haves and the have-not is at the widest point that it's been in my lifetime, really speaks to me and should speak to everybody. If you do a little research, you can just look on the internet. You can see there's a definite correlation between the decline in union membership and the decline in middle-class wages. People are making, we're probably at a 20 or 30-year low as far as median income based on the cost of living and inflation. We're making less and doing more than we have in probably the last 50 years.
Steve Buck, our guest here on the Daily Report, business agent with Local 563. I do want to make sure people understand they can find more on this at Cretex. That's CRETEX workers.com, CretexWorkers.com. Steve, we have just over a minute here, and I think you kind of suggested the answer to my question, but I want to get your thoughts. A lot of people, you talk about the changing wages, you talk about the more for doing more with less. How do we prevent this from people accepting it as, quote, the new normal?
Well, I think people need to realize that there are opportunities to organize their workplaces, to come together as a group and bargain with their employers for fair wages and working conditions. When working class people come together, there's nothing that they can't do. You know, we say all the time, united we bargain, divided we beg, and that really goes for everyone. When companies are able to pit their workers against each other and treat people differently, pay them differently, cause people to be afraid for their jobs. Yeah. It's just not right, and I think that the other thing we need to really do is we need to be involved politically. We need to make sure that we elect representatives that have the middle-class people's value in mind rather than corporate America. Absolutely. More and more we see people are being, our representatives are being bought and sold. And we need to get back to a time when representatives represent the people, not the corporations, and we can do that at the ballot box. Steve
Buck has been my guest here, business agent with Local 563, and I totally agree. Very glad we have a DFL-led legislature, at least in this state, and a progressive governor like Governor Dayton. And I do hope things will move forward, and we'll be checking in again. Thanks so much, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, Jack Rice concluding part 3 in his 4-part series on the Trans-Pacific Partnership here on AM 950.